My name is Joshua and I am the Tribune. This video is specifically to explain how to use the Clothing Royalty Library. Now, before I do that, I must tell you guys how God taught me all these principles, these powerful, powerful principles, and what my agenda was in finding these principles. Because if you don't understand that, it's going to be very difficult to navigate all the videos that I'll be making. So, more than a decade ago, God found me and snatched me out of darkness. And I was already a Christian, but I wasn't a real Christian. I wasn't really living a godly life. But what happened was I started thinking about how I needed to see God's power in my life before I die. I need to see this. I cannot come to the end of my life and not see God. I don't want to come before the throne after I'm finished on this earth and God says, you know, I actually wanted to be your friend. I actually had so many wonderful things to do with you through our friendship, but because you never gave me a chance and actually tried to get to know me at all costs, you just settled for complete garbage, complete trash. That's what you settled for. Now, come on into heaven because you're a Christian, but I had to actually reassign everything that I called you to do. And you missed out on the experience of me working through you on the earth. Now, that thought was a horrifying thought for me personally. So I told myself, I need to make sure I separate myself from everybody on the earth. I need to make sure that when God is looking for somebody to use mightily on the earth, just like Moses, just like Noah, just like Joshua, just like any of these people in the Bible, I want him to scan the earth and look at me and say, I want to use him because he's willing to sacrifice and take the time to get to know me and go through the entire process, no matter what. This is what my agenda was more than a decade ago when God started teaching me these principles. So, the first mission for me was to set myself apart in God's eyes. That was my first mission. It really wasn't to teach these principles. It wasn't to learn them so that I can give them away necessarily. These principles I learned for myself. I learned these principles for me only so that I could move forward in a powerful way with God. And I wanted to do things in my life that nobody had ever seen before with God. What really motivated me to think like this was not just me alone. It's seeing and looking around at the world and seeing all these foolish people. And there's many groups of these foolish people. For example, there's one group who they don't think about God at all. They just do whatever they want to do. And then they just live their life and just waste everything. They go to hell because they didn't know Jesus Christ. And they just live a total blasphemous and wasteful life all their years on earth, and they just float away like a piece of dust. That's the first group that I saw, and I was like, this is crazy. Very sad. The next group are Christians. People who are Christians that don't really see God for really who he is. Some of these Christians are actually posers. They're people who want to have a Christian mask on for no reason, and I don't even know why they want to do that, and then do whatever they want on the side. They want to talk Christian and sound Christian when they meet Christians for whatever reason, and then just do their own thing and live filthy. Now, but the real group that really disgusted me, that scared me, horrified me, was the group that was Christians, the real Christians who love Jesus Christ. And they don't see him for who he is, and they totally miss out on everything that he has for them because They want to keep him in a tiny little box. The reason why that disgusted me is because it made me think about myself and look at myself and think, what a total waste. If I know God and I actually start my relationship with him and then I chop it off, put him in a box, and just walk around with nothingness as a Christian with no mighty power. That is a huge tragedy. And I came to find that God sees that as a huge tragedy himself. And this is who revealed these things to me. So all these groups of people contributed to me going on my own journey and finding these principles. Another thing that really made me very angry, that is one of my greatest passions even to this day, is seeing Satan ravage the earth, not just with things that are just immoral and evil, but being a counterfeit and people really thinking that his stuff is the best stuff. That really set me off. Now, if you take this package, you can see that this is what motivated me to go on the journey at all costs. So when you look at these videos, you need to understand where they came from. It came from more than a decade, many, many years of me going through the process at all costs with God just for me, preparing for my mission. This was my only agenda. I wanted to make sure that when I come out and start embarking on my journey with God and purpose and my mission, that nobody could stop me. That nobody can come between me and my relationship with God. And I was determined to find out what God would teach me and how God would reveal himself to me if I just laid everything down. So I did a lot of crazy things that, well, people might think they're crazy because it looked very crazy, because it's very unusual in these times. I would literally cut my own nose off and watch God fix it. I went with God and circumcised myself. I would do things that he said knowing it was ridiculous because I needed to see how wonderful is our God. How come we don't see this? Now, through the process, I had so many questions about how our God is, and I had to go to the Bible for these things. Very, very, very few, if any, could really answer many of my biggest questions, and I mean pastors and people. They couldn't really answer my questions because I realized they're shooting too low. They're not even aiming. They're not aiming high. They're aiming low. So I realized the higher I went, the less people can answer my questions. And then God really started teaching me these principles and changing my perspective on so many different things. So as I moved forward, I kept in my mind that I'm really trying to separate myself from everybody. I really wanted God to look throughout the earth and say, wow, who can I give this to? I have something that I need done that's very powerful and will bring me much, much glory. And nobody can do this because they don't have this amount of relationship with me. They don't have this kind of depth with me. But Joshua does. So I want to give this to him. He's going to take this. This was my goal. And it still is my goal. Now, you can then understand when God told me that he wanted me to start putting these principles And after he taught me all these things for so many years and crazy situations and unbearable training, that I knew most people aren't going through this. Absolutely, most people are not even interested. They don't even know this level even exists. I purposely sought that out. The places that people really don't think too much about and they don't care to. You can imagine my surprise when he said, "Now I want you to teach these things." The first reason why I was so surprised and thought it was very ridiculous and strange is because I don't see too many people needing these kind of principles. They're not looking for them. They're not looking for them, and they don't care about them because they really don't care about God. Even a lot of the Christians don't really look for these things because they, again, want to keep them in a nice little box. And especially the people who are saying they're Christians and want to talk like a Christian and just talk all these cliches, but then do whatever they want on the side and think that nobody can see it. These people definitely wouldn't be interested in this kind of stuff. And I was like, why? Who am I putting these out for? Who in the world would even need this right now? That was my big question when God commissioned me to make these videos for you guys. Who would even need this? I specifically found these principles in places that nobody is looking for on purpose, so I can stand out and be totally separated, and I can get more commissions and do mighty, mighty works like people in the Bible times that were so powerful. And then he took me back, way back, to how he snapped me out of Satan's path that I was on and moving towards. And I realized that he took me and broke me into it. And then from there, I was obedient. And he just kept breaking and breaking and breaking until I realized the value of what he was doing. And then I said, "You just keep breaking me because this power that's coming out of me is so amazing that I am happy to be broken to receive your commissions and power." So I realized that that's how it happened. And he told me, many people, I'm going to be coming to break them. And they're going to have a chance to come and find me in friendship and do powerful things with me. Some will be thrown into the fire, the bad fire, hell, because they'll totally ignore these things. Others will take their fire and their training and their hardship and their breaking, and they will be just like you, Joshua. They will want to find me in a magnificent way, and they need a place to come to study and get these principles, and then confine me in my word, and confine me in their life, and notice what I'm doing in their life. This is what he explained to me. He specifically is focused on the upcoming generations. So, something I saw is that the commissions that he was giving me to prepare all these years, over a decade, were so powerful that I found myself, it's a necessity to be obedient to his every single step. Even this step of speaking it out. But I want you guys to know that this stuff didn't come because I want to talk to you guys about it. That's really not how I found all these principles and all these magnificent facets of God. I actually found them for myself. And I'm sharing that with you because he told me to. I never planned to, I never thought about it, and I really never thought anybody needed it. So it wasn't even on my radar. But he's saying there is coming a time where people will need it. I'm not even doing this for people necessarily right now watching it, because maybe the people right now watching it don't even need it. Maybe they're not even the group. I'm being specifically obedient before I really start my path that I'm doing for my mission with God. And there's going to be a big library here for the future, for all time. And I would argue that this stuff that I'm putting on this channel is actually the most valuable information on the internet. There is nothing more valuable, because there's nothing more valuable than God in your relationship with God. So my stuff, this stuff that he is having me put on here and speaking through me to you guys, this stuff is a foundation for all eternity. This stuff is so powerful that even if I just died at the end of my life, this stuff would go on for thousands of years until he comes back, if he tarries that long. And it would be so powerful. And it's ageless, it's timeless, these things. These things are timeless. And it will always guide you back to your relationship with Christ, and you need to go find your own relationship with him and take these principles, and you will see these things in your life. Now, how do you study? How do you go into this library and use it as a tool for you? How you do it is you don't watch these messages just like a television show, like episodic. You just go through, and every time there's a new one, you just watch it. Wow, I'm entertained, or he's saying crazy things, or hard things, or things that are unusual, and I just, wow, I can't believe it. I'm in shock, blah, 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 all this foolishness. And then I go to the next video, and I'm just waiting for the next, oh, no, that's not how you watch this stuff. How you watch it is you make sure that you keep up with the new things that I'm saying while you're pinpointing like maybe one or two things in your life that God's working with you on. And maybe you pick those two videos, maybe you go back in the archives and pick the two videos or one that you really are, that he's speaking to you through. And then you need to marinate on these things. You need to go into the word for yourself. You need to seek the side of his character for yourself. So that you can actually marinate and soak these things into your spirit. That's really how you use these videos. You have to remember that each principle that I list, sometimes I list a few principles in one video. They took more than a decade to even learn one principle. It took a lot of experience, a lot of cutting, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I mean a lot of literal blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of pain, patience, and also figuratively, blood, sweat, and tears. It's both. There's so many things. So you're not going to watch this video or watch any other video and just pick these things up every time I post them. That I already know that's not going to happen. So what I'm doing is I'm forming a library so that when somebody comes, maybe they already know 5 of these things and they're looking for something that can actually feed them in a fresh way that people aren't talking about, and they can find it and then build on that principle with the Lord in their life. So this is how you use the Clothing Royalty Library. My videos, they normally have 2 kinds of forms. One is a word for the times that we're in, that God says, I need you to speak on this because it's the time is now. The next type of video is a video that is a principle that took me years and years and years to learn and actually fill myself up with. So just please understand that so you know how to use this library. You need to marinate. I'm very big on marination. The things I say I marinate on for years before I even speak them. So this is why I'm posting so many videos. And that's the only reason why I can post so many videos in such a short amount of time. It's because I've marinated them on them for years. This is another reason why I don't have a podium. I don't have any notes, because I'm speaking to you about these principles out of my spirit. I shouldn't need notes. I shouldn't need to sit and take 2 weeks to prepare a tiny word for you guys. This one word. No, I should be speaking that out of my spirit. I should already be studying in the word before I even come to the camera. This is what God expects. And this is what he expects from you guys. He wants a relationship. He wants you to marinate. And this is how you use the Clothing Royalty Library. And I hope that this video also explained a little bit of backstory on what my intention was in growing with God and even finding these principles. It was not for you necessarily. This is him wanting me to give you these. This was for me. I got these principles for me, nobody else. That means that he loves you guys very much. And that means you have mighty missions and mighty power that will be dispensed to you through him, through your relationship with Jesus Christ. So make sure you become a Christian and you accept him as your personal Savior. Go down to the video description and any other video that always has it in the video description and say the prayer and start your journey. Hail Jehovah.